Okay, good evening and welcome to the January 21st, 2026 meeting of the Wilmington School Committee. All of our members are present. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Much. Having no student reports tonight, we will jump right into our consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from our last meeting, January 14th, 2026, warrants, grants 26, revolving 38 and 39, local 66 through 68, food service 37 and 38, circuit breaker 12, special education 38 through 40, and no payroll. Is there a motion? Mr. Golden, second. Mr. Turner, all those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. That brings us to, moving quickly, public comment. We did receive one public comment in advance, which is in our packet. No one has signed up for public comment to join us this evening. However, as we always do, we will open the meeting for public comments. Hearing none, that concludes public comment, and we will move right into new business, welcoming back from last week, Mr. Gendron for the Wilmington High School Program of Studies. First read.
Can I just offer a quick point of information?
Of course you can, Mr. Golden.
For the person who offered the public comment, I invite that person to also submit it to the school building committee because that would be relevant, so thank you, and definitely send that to them too.
I think that's a great point. Thank you, Mr. Golden.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Mr. Gendron.
All right, hello. Wow,
See you.
7:02.
We are nothing if not efficient.
We were so happy for something new.
That's great, yeah. All right, well, thanks for having me back. Good evening. Each year, in collaboration with our curriculum team leaders, assistant principals, school counselors, and teachers, WHS proposes updates to our program of studies for the following school year. And before I begin, I want to recognize our administrative assistant, Melissa Scholastico, whose behind-the-scenes work managing red line edits, clean drafts, and stakeholder feedback is essential to this process. In the packet, you'll find a summary chart outlining the proposed changes to the program of studies, as well as a red line copy with line-by-line edits, and a proposed final version to show what all hopefully matches for our updated program of studies. And the summary chart is intended to highlight the most significant changes. I won't review the entire chart right now, but I do want to highlight a few key updates. First, we're proposing two new types of pathways. The first are innovative career pathways, which are developed in alignment with DESE guidance. These pathways combine technical and advanced academic coursework, college and career exploration, and a required 100-hour internship or capstone experience focused within a particular industry. Thanks to the work of Julie Kim, our science CTL, Mark Staffier, our assistant principal, and Molly Dickerson, our school counseling CTL, we are proposing two initial pathways. One is life and environmental sciences, and the other is business and finance. In the program of studies, there's a written overview of the pathways, visual flow charts, and a link to the student application. If approved, this information will be reviewed with students during the second semester grade level assemblies. Applications will initially be open to all grades with a long-term plan for students to apply at the end of 9th grade. We anticipate supporting 20 to 40 students per cohort per pathway. The second pathway is an accelerated math pathway. Its purpose is to clearly communicate a course sequence that prepares students for AP Calculus BC, which is equivalent to a full-year college math course. Currently, WHS students typically max out at AP Calculus AB, which is equivalent to a first semester college course, with a small number of students over the last several years accessing BC through VHS or pursuing dual enrollment with Middlesex Community College. This pathway provides transparency for students and families about what preparation is required, includes performance criteria to indicate readiness, and outlines multiple options, including 2 other honor sequences and a college prep sequence, so families can better understand their 4-year math choices. The other set of updates involves addition of new courses. First, we're establishing a digital literacy and computer science section of the program of studies, which reorganizes our existing computer-based offerings and adds one new one-semester elective Introduction to Artificial Intelligence. Developed in partnership with Project Lead the Way, this course will introduce students to AI development, ethics, and real-world applications, an important area of digital literacy in a rapidly evolving world. Next, the PE Health Department is proposing Emerging Trends in Community Health, a one-semester elective designed to help students explore current health issues within and beyond the community to make informed decisions about personal habits. This course would complement Health Dynamics for grades 9 through 10 or the PE Choice for grades 11 and 12. The Science Department is proposing Robotics as a one-semester elective that expands access to our existing robotics program, which is currently limited to students with significant after-school availability. And finally, the Business Department is proposing AP Business with Personal Finance, a college-level course that builds on the strength of our existing business offerings and would serve as the required advanced course within the business and finance pathway. To close, I want to note that in addition to the highlights I shared this evening, the packet does include several other clarifying edits across departments. While more minor in nature, these changes help ensure accuracy, consistency, and alignment through the program of studies. Thank you for your continued support of the high school and your thoughtful review of these proposed updates. We do appreciate your partnership and your feedback as we work to expand opportunities and make sure that we have a strong future-ready program for our students.
Thank
All right,
you very much.
and I'm happy to take notes on feedback or questions.
Feedback, questions, comments, thoughts? Mr. Golden.
Thank you. Thank you, Principal Gendron, for being here. I really think it's great that when I look at the English department, I'm going to have a bias there, of course, you have college prep and honors versions of the same classes. Can you, and it's probably different teacher to teacher, class to class, but how different is the material in each?
Great question. Actually, to help delineate that, we developed a course level expectations chart,
Great.
Which breaks down for each course. I don't have it in front of me, but like the habits of work expectations, the homework workload expectations, the classwork experience delineated, and we also have AP in that chart. So, I can follow up and share that with you, but it is meant to outline to families like exactly what to expect for each of those levels.
That's awesome. Thanks.
If I could just follow that up, on the clean copy, and probably on the red line copy of the program of studies, starting at page 11, you can see the course exactly what Ryan
Perfect.
spoke to me. You can see the difference between the description, homework expectations, assignments and assessments, and habits of work.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Mr. Turner.
So, it's coming, but thank you very much. I really appreciate all the work on the business and digital literacy and computer science, and bringing those together and reorganizing that. I think it really is a great step forward in the way this is all put together. I know that's been a lot of work you guys have been doing over the last months and years, so I really appreciate those changes. And I think it's really good. And then the career pathways, I know there was a tremendous amount of work done by several of the teachers to get those going, and so I'm really excited to see how that plays out over the next few years. And then maybe, I don't know if it'll be next year or the year after, but getting an update on how those are flowing and how many kids are looking to actually engage in those ways. I think it'll be very interesting to hear back on that.
Absolutely, and thanks for the continued encouragement to think about how to package those computer courses together. When we were looking for a title, we ended up looking at DESE's frameworks for everything, from English to math to science, and they do have a framework for digital science, digital literacy and computer science, and that really, I think, was an aha moment for us, and it really helped us bring them together. We are also excited about the innovative career pathways. In talking with the people who developed these two, they think an advanced manufacturing pathway and a computer science pathway are like almost ready to go, so we do intend to expand. There was some bad news when we learned that the significant grant we were initially awarded to implement the innovative career pathways was subsequently withdrawn by DESE due to how the town voted in the MBTA Communities Act. But we have clarified with the implementation side of DESE's support for ICP that if we can figure out ways to fund the pathways ourselves. The designation is not, likewise subject to that kind of penalty. But we're happy to report back on the first two pathways this time next year.
Thank you.
Could you talk a little bit more in detail about the request in the budget for the business teacher and how that influences the AP offerings and the career
Sure.
pathways?
Yep.
We're looking at.
And so as you might recall, the request to expand the business department with one FTE actually started 2 years ago. That was after looking at our course requests that the students put in for their elective courses and noting the disparity of how over-requested the courses were, and our current staffing can't meet that demand. Over time, students can request the course, and there is some senior privilege built into the scheduling software, but we feel like if we have an area of study that students are excited about, then we want to try to reflect our staffing to meet that demand. AP Business, I think our intent would be to add it, regardless of how the budget process goes, but it would mean that we can serve fewer students than want to take the business courses that we offer. The last piece I would add is this time last year I shared some enrollment information as part of the rationale for adding one teacher, and again, business being the area with the most demonstrated demand. The transfer portal throughout the fall and winter has continued, so we continue to absorb more and more students, and then enrollment continues an upward trend. So I think the student demand and the enrollment patterns are really what's behind that business teacher request.
Thank you. Mr. Ragsdale.
I think that this is a really thoughtful revision and proposed revision of the program of studies. In particular, I want to sort of call out the reorganization of certain departments that now have kind of grown into their own thing. So when we first started computer science, which was actually not that many years ago, it made sense to kind of we'll put it in the math department. It's kind of the closest analog that we had. And now that we have enough that we can say, all right, we can sort of break that out a little bit and have that own session. The same is true about the English learner education, that I think that those make a lot of sense to really kind of, group out, even if we don't have a department or a CTL specifically for everything, that I think that those are some good organizational changes. And I also appreciate, just broadly speaking, kind of just looking through the whole document, just a lot of little cleanup and just small little things here and there. Oh, we don't really do that anymore, or, this is maybe not how the course is taught now. And I think that this kind of ongoing maintenance really kind of keeps you from some number of years later looking at it and suddenly just being realized, oh my God, like we need to completely revamp some of these descriptions. This is not at all the way we're approaching this class. So I appreciate it. I mean, it takes time to do this kind of regular maintenance on documents like this and not just look at the big picture stuff. And so I do really appreciate how so many of the courses had just like small little tweaks, like truly it's obvious that every description was gone through and evaluated on like, is this really still the description that we want for this class? I have a comment on page 12, which is the high school graduation requirements, and that is, I gotta scroll back to it myself here. That the first sentence under the graduation requirements talks about meeting all state MCAS competency requirements, and since MCAS is no longer required as part of the CD, I think that MCAS competency requirements should just become competency determination requirements, because the state still does require a competency determination. It's just not tied to MCAS anymore. So I would recommend just a small change in language there. I also have two quick questions, or at least one quick question. In a bunch of the business courses, I noticed that many of them had been designated as a DECA qualified course, and a lot of that was redlined out. A lot of that was being removed, but it was still in some courses, but seemed like many of them had that. Could you describe what that means and why those changes were made, because I didn't really understand.
Yeah, so I'll double check. I thought we were removing it from all. So DECA used to have a requirement that students be enrolled in specific courses in order to be eligible to participate in the extracurricular club. My understanding is that's no longer the case, and I thought they struck them from all, but it's possible that there were some missing. I didn't get into much more advanced conversation with the business department because I think their understanding was that requirement ended quite some time ago, and so they were a little surprised we still had it. But I can go back and get a more nuanced explanation, but we'll definitely double check because I think all of those should be struck from the record.
Okay, so I think there's one that's still in
Okay.
there.
All right, we'll find that. Thank you.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask about is, so one of the courses that was renamed in the History and Social Studies department was Contemporary Issues, renamed to Current Events. And it just kind of had me thinking a little bit, because reading the description of it, it says that students are expected to essentially follow the news daily, and from like class to class, be ready to discuss the news. And I think I'm not the only person who's noticed that temperatures are kind of high in a lot of areas, and that there's a political tribalism. And I was curious about sort of just what the school's approach is on how to take something like this and make it a productive learning experience. And it's like, how do you kind of keep the temperature down and, you know, and approach a class like that without it, I guess it's sort of like without no one saying anything of any meaning or consequence, and on the one hand, and then on the other of it really just kind of getting potentially ugly.
Yeah, so I think a couple things. One, the Contemporary Issues course was previously called Current Events, and then switched to Contemporary Issues. My understanding was for like transcript-related reasons, like looking like more formal of a course than perhaps like an informal title like Current Events. It was a widely subscribed to course that has significantly dwindled, in some cases not being able to run due to lack of enrollment. And then the question was raised at that point if Contemporary Issues was student-friendly enough language for them to understand, exactly what would happen in that course. And so the feedback from the Social Studies Department was that they would like to try it with the new title, but the existing course structure. For the second part of the question, I think, I think a lot of social studies educators are aware of like the temperature and dynamics and perils that accompany some of the curriculum that they teach. Fortunately, I think the state frameworks are very solid in identifying what needs to be taught in like a historical basis or in factual way. And I know that not only in this course, but in the other social studies courses, like some conversational norms around how students express their opinion or agree with another person's opinion or even disagree is really thoughtful. And there's a lot of like pre-work that goes into having a productive conversation especially about potentially divisive issues. And I think our educators are really talented at that. Not only social studies, I'm thinking of a lot of like Socratic seminars happening in English courses, and a lot of the electives are rife with current events, quite frankly. And in my experience, they've done a really nice job of managing it, A, and B, the students, for a lot of reasons, are just really kind, collaborative, contributors. Like a lot of those vision of the graduate words, you see them play out in potentially rocky conversations like that. And so those are some of the thoughts about how they've navigated a course like Current Events or potentially challenging issues.
I'll go to Jackson and Dr. McCauley.
Talking about that same issue that Mr. Ragsdale brought up, from a student's perspective, so I took AP Government last year, and which was an election year, so that was like a big thing that was happening. Like it's supposed to be like Unit 8, but we like moved it up to November. So so like a lot of talks about like different like perspectives came in, and from like my perspective of what happened in that class, a lot of students know that like my opinion is not necessarily the same as your opinion, and I feel like students are aware of that, so to say. So they know not everyone agrees with me, and not everyone agrees with every single person. So just from like the student perspective, people know that, students know that, and they are cautious when talking about that. So there's another way to look at it.
Dr. McCullough.
Yep, no, thank you. So, like I think Mr. Ragsdale said, thank you for kind of being really diligent on the review and just like going through really methodically to make sure that the document reads a lot better, took out a lot of extraneous language and everything like that. I am really excited about the career pathways. I think it's really great to just see how a lot of just regular public high schools are thinking ahead for careers instead of just like, well, we teach you this stuff and then you go to college, and it's like, no, we're starting you on that path to be like, well, one day you will be out of school and here's some tools we can give you. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see enrollment in those and how they're received and everything like that. I also do like the AI class too. My day job, we're trying to figure out how to use it, and I think it's great the schools are trying to figure out how to use it well. You know, it's this new thing that we're all just trying to make sense of it. So I think in a year I'd be interested in hearing an update on how that went and everything too. So I just have two kind of minor questions. First one might have just been me being just a little confused reading it, but it was around the requirement of completing the grade 12 community service. So it seems like that if you wanted to do like the dual enrollment, I think, is that you would have to finish all your community service beforehand before you can do the dual enrollment and go to community college. But then it was like later in the paragraph, it was like, well, you still have to do your community service too. So I was just a little confused on that one.
Yeah, so I think at some point it was added in a sense of like, before we release you to Middlesex Community College, we need you to finish all your WHS obligations. The feedback from the counselors, though, was that that was rarely enforced or like a big deal, and that they never had difficulty having students satisfy their community service requirements.
Yeah.
So they felt like it was an unnecessary kind of hoop to have students jump through before senior year if they could do so during senior year.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Yep. Thanks. And then I had another question around the mathematics accelerated pathway. So was kind of curious why there was a prerequisite to entering this pathway with scoring exceed expectations in 7th and 8th grade on the MCAS. So a concern can be is you have a student who's killing it in math, doing really well. They're just not a great standardized test taker. And then like with MCAS, there's been such a push to be like, well, you know, it's okay. Just do what you can, you know, don't stress out too much about it. But here now it kind of makes it as, oh no, MCAS is kind of real if I want to go do something else, you know?
Sure, yeah, good question.
Yeah.
I am always of the opinion that nothing is such an absolute that it can't be, a case-by-case basis. And I think they tried to write that sentence of the sequence is designed for students who meet some of the following criteria, but it's not exclusive to that criteria. So if there was a student who, they felt like they were a good fit for the accelerated pathway because they really want to get to BC calculus. They really want to do a full year college math course during senior year of high school. But they were in the meeting expectations, not exceeding. That they're doing really well in the courses. Their teachers think it's a great fit for them. Either they had a bad day or they don't do well on high stakes testing. That student would definitely still be taken into consideration. Really where this accelerated pathway came from was responding to concerns from the community about, in the past, there having been a lack of transparency about what the options are to accelerate math. Before I got to WHS, I heard reports of like students either testing out of a course or taking a course at an outside institution or organization, and just like a lot of like inconsistent pathways around what the typical sequence of courses was. So our goal here was to, identify a way that students could make it to Calculus BC at WHS. It would require a double up in ninth grade. It's definitely not for everybody, and I think part of the criteria is to signal that it really does depend on heavy math interest and some strong math foundations.
Yep.
But I appreciate that they also identified 3 other rigorous math sequences that students could also take. And lastly, they're not limited to any of these, There was discussion about a pathway that has, statistics swapped for Calc AB and then something else. So students do still have customization of these courses and sequences, but that's just a little bit more about, the thinking behind how they
Sure.
got there.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm glad to hear it's not like a strict absolute, like if you have a student that's really promising, that they can do that
Yep.
and everything, so, yeah, no, that's great, thank you.
Go back to Mr. Turner, back to Mr. Rexel.
So a little bit of a detailed question, I suppose, but in terms of the AP classes and the connection to VHS and our minimum class sizes and those sorts of things. So we have some AP classes that always run. We have some AP classes that we never run that are available through VHS. And then there's a group in the middle where we offer them, and sometimes we run them, sometimes we don't. Two-sided, I guess the core question is, what's the magic number to run an AP class in the building as opposed to VHS? Is it?
So I don't think there's like a specific number. It varies a little bit. And some of the variables that I think would be taken into account are what department it's in and what the other caseloads look like within that department. So if like we're really struggling to meet all the student demand, meaning course requests in, say, science, then we might not be able to afford to run a relatively small AP Physics 2 course. If that number's like in the teens, we'd really prefer to, rather than put all those kids on a computer, because the experience is so much richer. But as that starts to get down into the low teens, it gets more challenging to justify. There are also times when we'll be in the teens for a number of students who requested the course, but in the scheduling process, it doesn't fit, and now that drops by 2 or 3 students, and it's starting to look too small. So there's not one specific number that we use. We just try to make the best decision we can with all the resources that we have available.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, I'm aware of the AP Pre-Calc class this year that has just a huge variety of 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in it right now. So there are some in the pathway already effectively.
Yep.
So that's part of why I was asking about that. So. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Rexel.
Just to get clarification on the mathematics pathways, in the accelerated column of the chart, it lists for 9th grade honors geometry and honors algebra 2, and then for 10th grade honors geometry and AP Pre-Calc. And I just want to clarify, I'm assuming it means that in one of those 2 years, you would double up and take honors geometry in addition to the other course listed there, and not that you would be taking honors geometry twice.
Yep, great clarification. And then in the time between the packet being printed, there was actually a request from the math department to remove it from the 10th grade floating area out of concerns that like the end of geometry and the beginning of pre-calc having some sequencing. So they did ask for us to clarify that we would be promoting the 9th grade double up primarily. But in the packet that you have, 10th grade does have geometry floating as well. But they would not do geometry twice.
Okay. That's what I thought, just wanted to make sure I was reading the intention.
Thank you for clarifying
the intention
that.
correctly. And then I have one last comment. This is actually about the cover page. I apologize for this because this is punctuation nerdery. But the 2026, 2027 should have an N dash and not a hyphen between them.
Okay?
Sorry, everyone, this is my curse that I see hyphens misused for N dashes everywhere, and it burns my eyes. And
Crusade to correct them all.
I apologize, but yes, N dashes are supposed to be used for ranges, like K-12 and 9 through 12 and year ranges and so forth.
To that point, I have not done a full review for the Oxford comma. I'd be happy to if you'd like that.
Send it along. No, I appreciate you pointing it out. If you notice, there's potentially other people who notice too. We want to get it as clean as possible. So thank you for that.
I need to get a definition of the difference, so I'll hook up with Mr. Radsdale later.
We'll talk
We'll
afterwards.
talk after.
Mr. Golden?
Thank you. Thank you for answering all our
No
questions.
punctuation, please.
No punctuation. Was there insufficient interest for AP French, or has it just been a couple years that there were? Okay.
Yeah. I'd have to go back and look, but it has AP French, AP Italian haven't run for a number of years. Yeah.
Thanks.
But we've struggled with French 5, Italian 5.
Yep.
And those are often, as we've had past conversation, times when students will often try VHS, but sometimes not finish. Just, language is such a interactive experience that it's hard to replicate in a virtual setting.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Bryson?
Thank you. This looks awesome. I'm excited and happy to do a second read next time we are together. I have a couple of, not really questions, but just actually 2 questions and then a request.
Sure.
So the Foundations of Writing course, they can take that freshman year. It does not count as an English course. Has there been any discussion on, could that count as an English course? Are people taking that course, or are they? So I know it's an elective right now, like they can take it if they want to, but I think sometimes students can't fit it in. So I'm just wondering if there's ever been talk of has there been talk of maybe that could actually take the place of, say, English 9?
Good question. I haven't been part of a conversation specifically about counting that as a requirement. I think English 9 more holistically addresses the English frameworks, whereas Foundations of Writing is very specifically geared towards the writing domain. And so often students will take it for one of 2 reasons: wanting to fortify their writing skills, or they love writing so much they want extra practice. But I don't think the reading components or the full scope of the English 9 year-long course would really be accomplished there.
I agree with the text. There's this piece of we're working so diligently on our writing, and that continues to be an area, I think, of emphasis for even our high school students. And when there's this, so not even could it count as, but is there a way to sort of look at the 2 side by side and say what's happening in this writing course, and are we doing that same teaching in this English course so that they're able to really, because all kids probably, when they come to 9th grade, based on some of our scores that we've seen on MCAS before they get here, probably could all mostly use a foundational writing course. So I'm almost thinking to look at it a little bit more broadly and say, what's happening in that course that maybe we could insert in some of those freshman year courses, even not even just an English course, but kind of across the English, history, and courses where they're doing a lot of writing. What's happening in that space? So I guess it was more of a question request, could we kind of take a look at that?
Sure.
My second one was the English language education program. So the English Learner Education 01 and 02. Do those substitute for, what do they substitute for?
So for those students whose primary language is not English, up until a certain English proficiency, they get their English language education with a specialized teacher in a specialized classroom. And that's based on their WIDA scores on the access test. And once they hit a certain level of proficiency, they would no longer get English in that setting. They would get it in an English 10, English 11. So that does satisfy their
So
English
it's satisfying,
requirement.
say, English 9, for example?
Yep.
Okay, great. And then my last request, not for right now, but sort of this access, access for us to see the numbers of diverse students, populations in these courses. So we're talking about that chart with the college prep honors and AP, and I know this is something we've talked about throughout the years in our equity subcommittee about who's accessing these courses and are we providing appropriate accommodation so that all of our students in these different populations can access these courses. So not for right now, obviously I'm not, but I'd just love to sort of next take a look at that and see what our percentages look like across those.
In the new courses or all courses, or do you, like,
I guess
so I understand the
yeah,
question.
no, I would love sort of, this is our special education students who are accessing college prep honors. So not necessarily in each course, but more broadly, across probably, we could do it across grade level or just across in general, probably per main content area. So like English, math, science, social studies. So it would be interesting to see, is there a difference in, I'm looking at Ms. Elliott, like, is there a difference in content area? Do we have more students with disabilities accessing certain content areas than other content? I think that would just be useful for us to know as a school committee. So for whenever, not anytime soon, but just as something to kind of put out there.
Sure.
Thanks.
Mr. Ragsdale, Dr. Thompson.
Just wanted to note that it's CP entrepreneurship that still has the language about a DECA qualified
okay,
class.
perfect.
So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Dr. Thompson.
Yeah, and I know, I just want to compliment Mr. Gendron and his staff. This is probably one of the better, if not the best, I don't want it to go completely to your head, but course of studies that I've seen. There is a wide variety of courses, and we heard some of the new courses we're looking to add last week. There's something for everybody. I especially like the career clusters part of this document, where it really highlights, courses you would take and areas you would study and what you might want to do after high school, expanding career pathways. There really is something for everybody in this, which I think is a testament to the dedication of the staff and the dedication of the community, and especially this committee. I would recommend, I think the mistake that people make is they don't look at the program of studies until they have a kid entering high school. And I would encourage parents to start looking at this, even in our elementary schools, to see what the Wilmington Public Schools are doing and are going to be offering, and members of the community as well, because these are the kids that are going to be part of your community, and the education that they're getting here and the opportunities are just outstanding. So I just wanted to close with that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gendron. Pleasure as always.
Awesome.
Great job.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Your team, too.
Roll Cats.
Roll Cats. All right, moving along in our new business item. Dr. Thompson, looks like we're going to spend some time with you. Transportation vendor update first.
Yes. So we are looking at expanding or extending our so we have a contract, and we have options for the next 2 years, and these are already been negotiated and what have you. So it's our recommendation that we look at that. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Simons for some more details.
All right, sure, no problem. So just for context, for the fiscal years 2024 through 2026, the district entered a 3-year transportation contract with our NRT. The dates run typically from August 1st of the school year through July 31st, ending that year. And then we had 2 options to extend the contracts. Each year, the contract is going up about 5%. So currently, our rate is $459 per bus per day. And it is going to go up to $481 in FY27 and $505 in FY28 if we exercise the options, which leaves us consistent with 5% every year for the 2 outlying years, which allow us to pretty much budget how we have been. The market right now, the rates are about $520 to $550. So if we choose to go out to bid, one, we risk losing NRT at their current rate because they may go with some of the competitors in those rates. So that could go up to about 8 to 14%. And also if we choose to go back with NRT even at a higher rate, they may have outsourced some of their buses. I can say that, looking back through some information that was given to me, they have been partners with us in terms of when we needed an extra bus in FY25. We went from 16 to 17, and that they're available and accessible as we've had to delay school this year during inclement weather times. So My recommendation at this point in time to decrease the risk of losing the rates that have been budgeted and service continuity, I recommend that the school committee authorize the district to exercise the first one-year option with NRT in FY27.
Thank you both very much. So I think you just said it, but to be clear, we have 2-year option. We have 2 years of options at 1-year increments.
Correct.
Thank you. Right. Mr. Turner.
It's crystal clear from the last time we did have to bid. Prior contract, we had 3 years with 2 one-year options, and we took those and took advantage of those, and that saved the town and the district of a significant amount of money. Negotiating the 3-year contract we just did 2.5 years ago now, reset the rate and certainly brought it back to what the market was. But these 2 out years really do benefit the district. In some ways, it would be better if we could have more option years, because it would bring a lot more stability. But the fact that we have the option years really do help from a budgetary perspective. So I appreciate the effort to get the contract where it is and the suggestion for sure.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Other thoughts, questions, comments? Dr. McCauley.
Yeah, no, thanks for this. I think I just want to understand a little bit better the bid process. So, like, if we want to go out to bid, why do we have to give up the contract? And then also, could we negotiate a deal with another firm or even NRT to get more favorable terms where we say, like, okay, we'll give you like a 5-year contract at this rate? Yeah, I'm just trying to understand that a little bit better, right?
I don't know if you want to answer. I can start and you can correct me. How's that? So, but basically because of the size of the contract, state law mandates that, and it needs to go out to bid, which means, and, you know, so you put out the parameters for what you're looking for, what kind of service you want, and then people will take that and give you a sealed bid, and then you open them. It's a big party. You open them, and those that don't fit your requirements, you can not take, but you're locked into the lowest rate that's being offered. Usually what is happening now is you have one bidder, possibly 2. I think for years, if I'm correct, there was only one bidder, NRT. Here, I think last year there was one other bidder, and it was significantly higher than NRT. So you basically kind of roll the dice. So we need to let them know whether we're going to exercise that option or go out to bid and start over again. That's kind of how the contracts are usually written.
Yes, and the other bidder who came to the table, they were about $330,000 more over the 3 years than NRT.
Okay. Sorry, just a lot of questions. What is the opinion for Ms. Ferretta with how NRT's been as a partner and everything? Is this a firm we still want to continue with?
I believe so from my discussions with her.
Okay.
In terms of what the market, the resources out there, as well as, you know, the fact that she knows the operations, they know the district. Typically, anytime you go out and you hire another company to do transportation, it's almost a year of onboarding for them just to learn routes, to learn the students, and to learn the operations of the district. So we would be at, I wouldn't even just say a fiscal loss, we probably would be at a service loss.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Golden.
Thank you.
Mr. Turner.
So this is kind of directed for Dr. Thompson. My understanding around the Commonwealth is that what you were just describing, where you really are only getting 1, maybe 2 applicants, is common, where basically there are regions of the Commonwealth where you'll have basically 1 company that offers these services, and that does, because of the lack of supply of these services, tend to drive prices up very high. Is that a fair understanding?
That is fair. We're also seeing less of the mom and pop bus companies and more larger regional and sometimes national, like First Student is a national organization.
Okay.
So.
Right.
And I think potentially, as Lisa had alluded to in the past, there's at least an up and down shortage of drivers, which drives the cost of employing folks up as well.
Yep.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Turner and Ms. Lord.
So one of the, to some of your questions, I mean, part of it is interesting, learning the contractual process is so different than the commercial world.
Yeah.
But there have been some districts, and Worcester is one of the ones that famously did this, that decided they were gonna go the other route and buy their own buses and go fully internal with this. That is something that would be worth considering, but it is a massive investment. It
Massive
requires
capital.
about 3 to 5 years of planning to acquire the buses and accumulate them so you could start the program. And then you have to do all the things with the town to run that through in terms of the bus life cycle program and having the ability to maintain them and things like that. But long-term, if we wanted to, and if we consistently only got one bidder and they were going up significantly each time, that would be an option, as effectively you create a second bidder for one cycle. And the question is, do we go with bidders or do we try and, take the 3-year plan and build out our own fleet? It would be massively expensive, but it's an option. And there's ways in which it becomes a much more controlled cost then. And you can plan out for years in advance. And so if you had a relationship with the town finance committee and town manager that said, we want to do this as a way to control our long-term costs, you could go that route. It would be a very big transition and pretty wrenching, and require, Ms. Fletcher's department would grow massively. But that is an option. It's a huge undertaking.
Am I allowed to piggyback off that?
By all
I'm
means.
sorry. Also, that happened in my previous district where we did buy the buses. And the scarcity of the market is just, it's not the buses, it's the drivers. So even if we went throughout, Mr. Turner said, we still would have to hire drivers, which is what caused us to re-outsource it, because that's something that they do all day and every day and specialize in. And they have to make competitive rates and give it back to the district versus the district has it on its books and is looking for drivers. And if we can't find them, then we would have to have contracted services similar to some other departments.
Right. It also becomes another set of rolling stock that needs to be replaced on a regular basis. And the problem is you buy all the buses at the same time and they're all going to age out at the same time. So it is a challenge. I think there's only about 3 or 4 towns that do it, and they started a long, long time ago. Worcester, is the exception. The other piece that I will throw in here that is kind of the wild card is that you're going to start a building project, and in 2 years, theoretically, your bus needs will change. So that probably would be a good time to put together a bid and put that out, because that might change the calculus on the costs.
Great point. Ms. Lord, Mr. Ragsdale.
Yeah, everyone has basically answered my question, which was that, and I was just curious about it, not really suggesting it, but, it's funny, at school committee conference, I went to busing because it's just a topic I've never really thought much about, right? So that was something that came up, and there were districts that have brought it in-house. I was just curious, but that kind of addresses what a big task that would be. And it makes sense.
That is, hopefully it might solve some of the other strange things we do here, but that definitely is going to be a big piece to look at, because you're technically going to have, several runs, but one run going to the north side, and then you still have 3 schools on the west side. So.
Right. Sure. I will, if I can, just because I'm thinking about this also, I'm wondering, just the school times, the start times that we have on the north side. It is something that, I think comes up as not ideal. And I wondered, I wasn't here when the decision was made, and I wondered how much that was determined by bus scheduling. And if so, if that's something that there's any wiggle room around. I know that's a big question. I'm just in the context of busing.
Yeah,
I'm curious about that.
Less buildings and less places to stop gives you more flexibility, but I'm still learning some of the roads, so I don't know if I want to comment.
I would suggest, and for those of you who were here with me at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would suggest that start times dictated schedules rather than schedules or like routes dictating start times. Like we sort of built the bus routes around when we wanted the buildings to start rather than vice versa.
Yeah. To that point, there were a lot of constraints, and the buses were part of the constraints. But one of the key things that we did at the time was by bringing the high school and middle school to the same sort of time, effectively we went from 4.5 to 5 runs of the buses through the town down to 3, plus the two kindergartens. And so there was some efficiency gain by the way they were redone. But the primary driver was student needs for start times, particularly at the secondary level. From there, the constraints of buses were very, very much a key part of the conversation. So they do go hand in glove, but we started with what's best for students, and then we went to what can we accommodate with the buses. And then we added a 17th bus.
Yeah. The basic problem here in New England is that we run a tiered bus system. If you go out west or south, they're county-based school systems. Everybody gets on a bus and they all start school at the same time because the schools are in the center of the county. It's much easier to change a school time when they all start at the same time. That's not what we have historically done here for the last 300 or so years. So, and we all love change in New England, but we'll talk about that another day.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to Mr. Ragsdale, and I'm going to try to, if we want to have a larger conversation about transportation at some point down the road, that's all well and good, but this is really just do we want to exercise our one-year option? So, Mr. Ragsdale.
Yeah, I want to just quickly add that it's worth noting that the decision that they made in Worcester was based on kind of extremis with their transportation vendor. This is after just years of just really unacceptable transportation problems, kids just not getting to school on certain days. So there was, they were kind of pushed into it by some very, very strong circumstances. Regarding what we're talking about here as far as extending the contract, I actually just want to know, is this kind of informational to us now, or are you looking for a motion and a vote tonight?
Motion and a vote.
So moved.
It is a contract, so you have to give us permission to enter it.
Right, I just didn't know if that's what you were looking for us by tonight, or if this was just, hey, here's the information, and we'll come back with a proposed motion at the next meeting.
We can do either, whatever is the pleasure of the committee.
I would suggest, Mr. Simmons, not to put you on the spot, but you had in your presentation what sounded like a pretty good motion. If you would be so kind as to repeat that for us.
Sure. I recommend that the school committee authorize the district to exercise the first one-year option to extend the transportation services contract with NRT for FY27.
Would anybody like to make that? Mr. Golden will make that motion. Mr. Turner will enthusiastically second that motion. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Thank you, Mr. Simmons. We will continue with you, gentlemen, providing an update on the FY27 recommended budget.
There we go. We're going to bring up some slides here. Oop, there it is. Now, the trick is me pushing the right button on this thing, so we'll see how we do. So it is my pleasure to present to you the recommended budget, my recommended budget to the school committee for FY27. Doesn't like me, Jen.
There you go.
See?
To the
I knew-
left.
wait a minute. Whoop, there we go. Hang on. See, I told you it was the wrong button. There we go. All right, so this budget was developed with the following in mind. We wanted to ensure that the district was positioned to provide for student needs. It was a conservative effort, and additions were done in a conservative way. A majority of the personnel asks are actually come under the category of mandated services. The only ones that do not are essentially the athletic trainer and the business teacher. Everything else is something that we need to provide for either our English language students, our special education students, or other needy populations in our school. We are very cognizant of the tax increase in light of the building project and building vote, and we wanted to be positioned so that that would be, as thoughtful as possible going forward. Also, we are a little concerned about state and federal changes in funding, and I have shared things with you over the last few months on that, based on funding from Washington coming out on a variety of areas and how that might affect not only the title grants from the federal government, but also Chapter 70 funding as well. This budget continues the growth of instructional programs, including curriculum updates, career pathways, and improving course offerings and education for our students. This budget is, as was presented previously in December, $54,276,626. Again, I'll say that again, $54,276,626, and that represents an increase of $2,553,100. Okay. The following budget drivers impact these recommendations. First, contractual obligations. You all know vividly well that we have secured 4 union contracts, settled 4 union contracts. Transportation costs are part of this budget as well, and those are going up about 5%. Staff changes from contracted services to employed by the district, and we talked earlier about occupational therapy. The outside vendor that we used previously has closed its doors. They did so soon after school started, and we have transitioned to hiring people to do occupational therapy. Again, that is still a critical shortage of people to do that work. We continue to hire for that. The athletic trainer is a possible similar situation where that company that is doing that is reducing its services, and to be ahead of that, we're looking to hire, move that from contractual service, increase that to full-time. That will increase not only the opportunity for athletic training services, but also it will be our employee, and we will not be beholden to an outside contractor. The other thing that this contractor drives this contract is an increase in student needs in the area of special education, English language learners, and therapy services, and that includes occupational therapy and speech therapy. Okay, since our presentation of the FY27 budget back in December, the following have occurred. The leadership team met with the town manager and director of finance for the town and discussed and presented the district's preliminary budget plan. School department was asked to prepare a budget that maintained total expenditures within a 5% increase over the current fiscal year. We did have some retirements, mainly paraprofessionals or educational assistants, and initial conservative budget practices. The FY recommended budget required no reductions from the preliminary budget that was presented in October. So here we have those numbers that, so we have personnel services, $43,142,000, contracted service, $11,134,000, and again, that grand total for this year, for FY27, $54,276,626, and again, that represents an increase of $2,553,100. Okay. So here's step and lane changes. So you can see that the FY26 budget was $41 million. And you can see step and lane changes, new positions, salary changes, $1,214,000, longevity increase of $12,000 for a grand total for this budget for salary changes of $43,142,000, and that's 4.29% increase. So this, again, looking at needs, occupational therapists, and this one occupational therapist of 1.0 and the certified occupational therapy assistants of 1.8, those were positions we discussed previously and moved into the 26 budget, but they will carry over and look like an increase into the 27 budget. The business teacher we just talked about at the high school supports the new schedule, rising student course demands, increase for electives, career pathways, and AP. Behavior interventionists, again, this is one position that will be shared with both preschools and kindergartens. We often have students who arrive with challenging behaviors, and someone in our, working in these two schools that will help assist with that. The athletic trainer, which we also discussed at the last meeting, replaces contracted services with an in-house person. You get more servicing, more training by having someone in-house. Speech and language pathologists, and that's up 0.6. And again, that is an increased need that we are seeing in the district, and increasing an ESL teacher, or getting an increase of 0.6 to address the needs for those students. So if you look at this, so this goes into, you can see at the top, you've got those occupational therapists, certified occupational therapists that actually were in the FY26 budget. But if you look below, those are the increases that I just discussed there. If you look at the bottom, you can see that we are making reductions in other places, and these specifically are moving people from one particular place to another, not necessarily putting them on the street. But you can see that, you know, we are reducing staff. We're not just adding on top. We're being cognizant of the budget impact there. So the other thing that is a cost driver is our programs and services that are non-salary expenses, including out-of-district tuitions. They do go up every year. Curriculum instruction and professional development, those increase. Information technology, we do have to keep on our replacement cycle, otherwise we're going to have a problem. Student transportation, we already talked about that increase. Athletics, school, office, library supplies, electricity, other special education costs, and operational services, legal translations, et cetera. And we've been very diligent on looking at what exactly is needed and how to keep those kind of in line. So the significant increases for next year include out-of-district costs and transportation. Okay, so here's a rundown of the non-salary changes. Okay, and you can see that budget from FY26 goes up from $10,355,000 to $11,134,000, or a 7.52% increase. So with all 4 collective bargaining agreements taking effect in FY26 and increasing personnel costs, the district faces challenges sustaining services in critical areas such as student support services, instructional interventions, transportation facilities, maintenance, and technology infrastructure. This plan is prudent fiscal management by meeting contractual obligations, maintaining current educational services, and ensuring continuity and stability for students and staff. So the next steps in the process, January 26th, town manager's budget presentation. February 11th, that will be the budget public hearing here. Well, actually, it might not be here. It might actually be at the new town hall across the street. We'll have to discuss that. February 26th, we will meet with the finance committee and present our budget, and May 2nd is Wilmington town meeting. So I don't know if there's any questions, but that is my recommended budget.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Mr. Golden.
Thank you. So first of all, I want to say thanks to Dr. Thompson, to Carrie, Mr. Simmons, to everybody who worked on this budget. I mean, getting it under that number that you got from the town manager is obviously quite difficult, but I'm glad to hear that it's where it's at. My question and then a comment. So first question, or the question, the Strides classroom that we heard about. It wasn't in the recommended budget personnel with purpose, but it was still seemingly in the FTE edition, having an extra Strides space in the Woburn Street, I believe. Is that still in here?
Yes, but that's moving teachers from one place to another place. It's reallocating staff.
Awesome, thank you. And I look at that slide where it shows the recommended budget includes in the positions, right, the occupational therapist, the certified occupational therapist assistant.
Yep.
You know, I've had parents talk to me about wanting those certified occupational therapist assistants, kids of theirs who need that help that we are, again, legally obliged to provide. I think folks, they hear we have these legal obligations to provide things and think that it's this third party or faceless person out there, but there are parents, moms, dads who say, like, my child needs this to have the education they deserve. They're real people in our town. And I think another thing too to mention, in touring schools in this district, you know, have seen how hardworking our educational assistants are in delivering services for kids in rooms like the Strides rooms, where there are kids who are like just nonverbal and they just are 9 years old, they need help going to the bathroom. I mean, this is incredibly difficult work.
Yep.
And it is having that Strides classroom. I know that's not like a new FTE here, but making that work in this budget, that's the kind of thing that this does. So while 5% is just under 5%, is not easy. None of this ever is, but it is very important. So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Other questions, thoughts, comments, Dr. McCauley?
Yep. Yeah, so same thing. So great work. Again, the budget underneath what the town manager wanted. Also, thanks for the town for, giving us 5%. That's pretty hefty, and that's great, especially with our contractual agreements as well, too. Just a couple questions. So from last time we met to now, there's now retirements. So I was just wondering what retirements are taking place, and are those positions going to be backfilled at all?
Yeah, you want to answer that?
No problem. So yeah, we have 4 educational assistants, 1 teacher, and 1 nurse. They are expected to be backfilled, but we expect to fill them with people who aren't necessarily about to retire, so they're coming at steps lower, so we'll see a modest savings.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And then my other question is, when you spoke with the town manager, so we have our capital budget,
Yes.
but what did the town say about, so everyone's aware, they fix up the schools, they do a lot of the maintenance of the schools. What do they say they're going to do with the schools next year?
So they're going to continue, obviously, the construction of the new building, taking care of our operational needs. I know that they're working on security enhancements, ongoing maintenance. So as I get calls throughout the day, they readily go over there to check, to clean, to sanitize, to make sure that the students are in a well-kept learning environment. Yeah, so those I believe are the essential whatness of how they're going to assist us in addition to building the school.
Okay, great. Yeah, just something to think about is, I don't know if this might be for Jesse or something like that, is it could be nice to have town manager or someone from that office come and maybe explain these things to us, because I'd be interested in seeing what their thought process is and what they're thinking, and then we can kind of give them a little feedback too on, some of this stuff might also need to be done too next year.
So in your packet with all the spreadsheets on page 76 is the capital requests. So in there is laptop, and again, it's got to go through the town process, but we have, we did have a conversation before, I think back in maybe late November.
Correct.
And move some things around, but there is a lot in here. So laptop replacement, $130,000, a minivan for $80,000. And again, this is this rolling stock thing, right? Another minivan for $80,000, 14 passengers van for $90,000, PC replacements, $25,000. And again, you have to replace technology on a rotating basis. We're looking at pre-K to 3 teacher laptops at $200,000, furniture and whiteboard at $50,000, STEM equipment $30,000, and the middle school electric auditorium screen, which somehow broke or was damaged, for $18,500, and security improvements for $45,000, for a grand total of $753,500. So that's what we would walk in to the capital process with.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, just clarification. So my comment was, in addition to this, the town also does things like paint.
Yes,
And,
yeah,
maintain furnaces. Kind of want a little bit more visibility on that process, and then making sure we can have maybe a little bit of a discussion about that and
Okay.
input on that
Yep.
too.
Yeah, we can speak to the manager's office, sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
That's a good point.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Ms. Lloyd?
I just wanted a couple things. First, I just comment on the athletic trainer. I know last week I asked a lot of questions to understand, and I definitely support that. I just want to say that it sounds like, just from the information we got, the person is already almost full-time hours. So to be able to bring them on full-time, bring them within our budget, have them available to our students, seems like a wise choice. And the fact that also we need to have an athletic trainer, right, to run our events. And then the other one that my eyes go to is the 0.6 positions. Obviously, for the speech language pathologist and ESL teacher, if those are on here, it's because they're essential services that our students really need. So when I see 0.6, sometimes I know you can find somebody who's looking for exactly 0.6, so that's the right thing, but sometimes I think that can present a hiring challenge in terms of who really, is available in the candidate pool. So I guess I'm just curious to know, since it's essential to provide those services. If we're having difficulty, is it possible to consider bumping those up? And also, what are the needs of our students? Is this something where actually our needs are higher, or, is that something that like we don't want to go beyond the 0.6?
Yeah, I think we would go out and start looking at 0.6, and then looking at if we can't find that person who, there are people that, for whatever reason, only want to, that basically is 3 days a week. So for some people, that is perfect. For other people, it would be a challenge, but, maybe someone has a parent or a child they need to take care of, so 3 days a week works well for a period of time, and by the time the child doesn't need to be taken care of, we'd probably be at 1.0, so it'll be fine. But, the other option is if, and this is a more expensive option, but is to look at 0.6 as a contracted service, but that usually is more expensive than hiring out, so it's all fluid. Yeah. And who knows, we could have someone this spring that, a few kids that need more services, and it might need to move up, and that's what we get to do, is to manage that number. So, any budget is, snapshot, this is where we think we're going to be. It's, 8 months, 6 months from now is when you're actually going to be dealing with the reality. So it's your best.
That's helpful to hear. So if it turns out we do have higher need, or we're having difficulty filling, we could consider adjusting it. Okay, great.
Yeah, and speech language pathologist is another area that's hard to find people.
Yes, right.
Can I add something just?
Yep.
Yes, Andrea, of course you can.
Sorry. We have a 0.4.
That's why I was just going to ask that question.
We have a 0.4.
Okay.
So this will make it a whole.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be easy. The 0.4, we've had to struggle filling anyways.
Yeah.
So it will help us overall.
So that will make, is that the speech and language pathologist role you're talking about? Okay, so that will make it a 1.0 anyway, and then make that a better,
Just
great.
split between two folks.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phone a friend.
Mr. Ragsdale.
I want to also comment on the town-school department relationship at the beginning, because that's a really important relationship. And I've been really happy that my whole time on the committee, we've really had an excellent partnership with the town manager's office and finance director. And, it's continued with, with our new town manager. And it's like, you don't understand how important that is until you see cities and towns that don't have it.
Yep.
And what that does to a school department when you don't have the support of your city and town and the local government on the other side. So I'm really grateful that we continue to have a really strong partnership with the town in providing this education. One thing that I want to flag, and we do it every time, but it's worth pointing out every single time, is the extraordinary increase in special education tuition. So on that non-salary change slide, the special education tuition, the increase in special education tuition is more than most of the rest of the slide put together. So the increase in professional development, in transportation, advisors, technology, supplies, electricity, all of it is less than the increase in special education tuition. And so when we constantly talk about trying to increase the district's capacity to serve special education students and their needs, it's like, this is what we're talking about. It is not only, although it's very important, that it is what is educationally best for them if we can do it, but it is also fiscally responsible, because otherwise this is what we have to do. So it's, the money that we spend and the resources we devote to increasing our capacity to serve these students' needs not only benefits them, but incredibly benefits us and our budget. It is absolutely money well spent. And then the last general point that I want to make is that this budget is not a profligate, like, oh, we're just shooting for the moon, oh, give us everything, we're just asking. It is not like that. We are mostly just trying to maintain the level of services that we provide to our students. and things become more expensive, and teachers need raises, and transportation vendors and the salaries and the tuitions and so forth go up. And obviously, in certain places, we are trying to make changes and improve things. We're not trying to remain completely static. We're always trying to better meet our students' needs. But we are, primarily just trying to make sure that we, keep providing the level of educational services that we have for years, and are not trying to kind of slide backwards and, start to, let people go and not serve the educational needs of our students. So it's like that's just kind of the reality. It's like 5% is kind of a large number, but when you actually break it down and sort of peel the whole onion apart, it's not a large number for what we're trying to do.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ragsdale. Mr. Turner?
So, thank you. So first of all, restating pieces of it, but again, thank you to the organization, the leadership team, into all the buildings and all across the central office. And as said, the partnership with the town is fantastic. And the support we've got, and a direct engagement with the town manager being involved in things that have gone on over the last year and a year plus since he's been here. I do want to highlight the one thing that I find particularly important is the behavioral interventionist and the need we have there for, and part of what's really critical about that at the pre-K level is that's a readiness to learn, an ability to learn, an ability to interact in the school environment. And it's such a critical need, and by addressing it at the pre-K level, it has a positive impact all the way through. Mm-hmm. I was talking to one of our building leaders who recently departed, and they were not at the pre-K level, but they highlighted that it was such an important need because they saw it years later. Mm-hmm. When kids didn't get the services that they needed at the time they needed them, they show up for years. And so the having that position is going to have a positive impact on those particular students and in their classes for their entire time they're in WPS. And so I think that the fact that we had the demonstrated need for that and are adding that position is really, really good and will have a positive impact on an enormous number of children for a very long time. So I'm really, really grateful that we have that piece in this budget. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Other questions, comments, thoughts? Okay, hearing none. Thank you both very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We had policies on here. I think that was probably a placeholder that we forgot to remove. I'll defer to the policy subcommittee, but I don't see any policies in the packet.
No, we had to reschedule a meeting. So.
All right.
Yep.
Well, then, in that case, we will bring some policies to the committee at a later date, thus concluding new business. Other reports, subcommittee reports. Mr. Golden and Mr. Turner are looking at each other to determine who's going to speak. Mr. Golden.
Very briefly, the Wellness Subcommittee met, went over a couple items. It was productive, I think. The survey, some of that preliminary data, and then was there one other?
Well, so there were three things. There was the discussion about the survey, and they'll be coming back to us with an update of how that survey went. There was a discussion about policy, so they're going to be coming to the policy subcommittee with updates required to be legally compliant on that topic. And there was a discussion about health in general from our town nurse. That's not her title. And just giving health director, thank you, and giving us an update on where the town is with regard to flu and such things. And so, wash your hands. Take your vitamins, please. And then we did also have the MSBA building meeting last night, and got updates on that design process, which is carrying along very well. They've done a lot of the foundational things like additional site work, additional environmental reviews, the baseline reviews of noise and the baseline reviews of emissions, so that they can have those pieces of information to compare as we go further into the building process. And then there will be additional abutters meetings coming up and further conversation on meeting with a wider range of abutters as we get much closer to the construction kickoff, so everyone's aware of how that spaces and area is going to change. Did I forget pieces of that, David or Nick?
I'll just add
You guys
that maybe
keep going.
for the public's interest, They're expecting, I think, approximately April, a lot of those reports that you were just mentioning that those analysts were doing, so like site work, geotechnical, emissions studies, traffic study data, the second round of that, since the project's been approved, they expect it'll be publicly available on the website in April.
I think I would just add that they've been working really closely with user groups within the actual schools in terms of the teachers and the administrators as they really drill down into the specific layout and design of the spaces. So they're really having people kind of think about, like, how are you going to use this space, and how are we going to configure even just like administrative offices. We had just as the example from last night was 2 separate offices that they said, actually let's knock down that wall in between them, because with a larger space, we can actually use this more flexibly. We have more, we can hold different kinds of meetings in here than what we would have if they were just like individual, small offices. So they're doing a lot of thoughtful work with teachers and administrators to figure out how best to configure and design the building.
Excellent.
And actually, to that point, the next meeting, jumping ahead a tiny bit to the calendar, but the next meeting will be February 10th at 6 p.m. instead of 6:30. And there'll be an abutters meeting following at 7 p.m. So those lately have been at 6:30. It will be in this room. They did confirm that.
An email today.
Yes, yes. So one last piece on that.
Mr. Exel.
And I'll add one more thing, is that recently, I want to say in the last 2 weeks, we had a meeting of the cell phone working group. And I'd say that the focus of that meeting was actually, we had a group of high school students who were really giving the other members of the working group a clearer sense of how phones are used in the high school, how different teachers kind of deal with kind of keeping them away, how often they're out, just trying to get a lot more just data on the ground of, what does this really look like in the hallways, in the classrooms, in the lunchroom, and so forth. And that, I think people found that information very, very helpful, and they were great.
Thank you.
Can I just follow up on that? I actually met with my student advisory group in the end of December, and that was a topic we talked about. So I have some notes, and actually some pretty interesting comments, especially from the seniors of, we're going to be, away on our own, on college campuses or in the work environment, that there should be some sort of, ramping up, if you will, and responsibility. I thought it was very, very interesting perspective from some really insightful young people. Most of that committee are leaders from all sorts of different activities, juniors and seniors. There's a couple freshmen on there, but I need to put together some notes, but I will share that with you as well.
Very good. Thank you. Anything else? Other subcommittees? Correspondence?
None this evening.
Future school committee dates and other notable items. Going slightly out of order, January 28th, 2026, next week, is an early dismissal for district-wide CIT day. We learned earlier this evening that January 26th, this coming Monday, the town manager will be doing his presentation. On Thursday the 22nd and Friday the 23rd at 6:30 p.m., Shrek the Musical, or Shrek Jr., I think it is. Also Saturday the 24th at 4 p.m. February 11th is our next regular school committee meeting and also the public hearing on the FY27 budget. Location to be determined, potentially at the new town hall, TBD, more to come. February 10th, Mr. Turner just told us, is the next Wildwood School Building Committee meeting at 6 o'clock and an abutters meeting at 7. Did I get that right? Yep. February 24th will be the next school building committee meeting.
No, that was the one on the 10th. They moved it forward instead of back. They were trying to decide which side of the break to go on.
Scratch that meeting. And lastly, February 25th, 2026 will be the next regular school committee meeting for us. Again, location to be determined. We may have moved to the new town hall by then. What did we miss?
Just the February break.
January 28th.
No break for you.
Literacy committee, literacy night, family literacy night, January 28th.
Oh, PJ night, right?
Well, no, it's wear your flannel. This time it's camping.
And what was the date on that again, Ms. Elliott?
28th,
28th. Thank you.
middle school.
And I don't have the dates of February vacation off the top of my head, if anybody
16th
does.
to the 20th.
February 16th through the 20th, February break. Okay. Hearing nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Golden, second. Mr. Ragsdale, all those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Have a great night.